Hello everyone, this is Pamperchu, and today I'm going to teach you how to flush a diaper down the toilet. Let it drop.
It sucks, but I like children. Yeah, I mean, I'm not a bad pal, I just like children. I mean, I like to cuddle up with them or, you know, hang out with them and do stuff, you know, feed them, things like that. I'm not like a or anything.
And that, dear sane people of the internet, is Michael Gifford, aka Pamperchu, a lolcow with a cringy talent of repulsing other lolcows.
Hello everyone, this is Pamperchu, and this is the very first micro preemie diaper smashing.
Okay. Well, you can see I got my blanket.
Pamperchu is a 37-year-old self-acclaimed child lover, loosely translated, file, and an adult baby who's been wearing diapers since he was 14.
I got a diaper. I wear them. I've been wearing them since I was 14. I threw out my underwear when I was 14.
He has thoughts about what he would like to do to kids, and the crazy part, he says them online.
I hate my children. What do you do with your children? Do you send them to school? I take them out of school, because school's too expensive. I'm not going to pay taxes. I'm not going to take your taxes.
Doesn't matter what my children are, I just love them.
It will shock you to note that Pamperchu is a certified engineer who loves repairing and keeping antique electronics. He's also a Bitcoin miner.
And over here we have one of my Bitcoin miners.
And word on the street is that he earns quite a lot from it. Yet despite possessing these skills that would have made him a respectable member of society, Pamperchu simply doubled down to become a sick man who experiments with used diapers.
Oh, it's hot. It's not shot. Ooh.
And shares links about where to get content about kids on the dark web.
You can find feet, diapers, little kids, all that stuff.
What happened to the guy that was so intelligent? What changed? Pamperchu has become a degenerate so unapologetically himself that he has people wishing cancer would take him away. From admitting his deep, twisted desires to commit animal cruelty.
I hate monkeys, and I want to kill an animal. Well, I don't know if you guys are the Gorg people, but I'll keep it clean. I don't care if it gets on the carpet or the walls.
And his high-key philic tendencies.
No, I would never kids, but they wanted to do it with me. I mean, they can do it themselves, or we can do it side by side, you know. I'll show them the fursuit head and stuff. But no, I'm not going to be mean. I mean, or that's not mean.
To his questionable habit of retrieving decaying diapers from a dumpster.
Do a larvae.
Anyways, look at that yummy one.
And walking around in a bunny suit, Pamperchu's disgusting tales are endless.
I would say the Lego
You know
were
what I can do?
the Lego ones are probably my favorite.
Right here.
No.
Sorry about
The crazy part is that he knows people hate watching his videos, yet he doesn't care.
Oh yeah, you're always allowed to make fun of me. I love that stuff, okay?
What happened to that smart man with a knack for earning Bitcoin? Was this a case of childhood trauma? And what other sickening stunts has Pamperchu pulled on the internet? Grab a snack as we get into it. Pamperchu's reign of terror began way back in 2006, when he started as a YouTube channel named Pamperchu. His earlier online identity revolved around four main obsessions: vintage electronics.
Hello everyone, this is Pamperchu, and today I got a nice vintage CD player. This is a Magnavox, built in May 1984.
Wearing bunny onesies in public.
We'll check out because nobody likes shopping for clothes. So come on, let's go inside.
Adult diapers as a lifestyle choice.
Yeah, fits really good. Now I can pull it up a little bit better. I guess I was too excited and I forgot to.
Consuming expired food products.
December 2013. So, it's probably been on the shelf for a couple years, but I'm gonna try it.
Yeah, I know. It's a lot to unpack. Anyway, his YouTube content followed a pretty consistent pattern that became his signature formula. Him showing off some ancient piece of technology he'd rescued from somewhere, him talking extensively about diapers and his relationship with them. And this is where things get genuinely concerning. Him ingesting food that had expired years, sometimes decades ago.
Here what we got Christmas in 97, 1998, there's a 99. I'm sure there's some 95s back there.
For a man to be obsessed with diapers and expired food, there had to be a problem somewhere. Interestingly, if you look at his earliest surviving content, you can see glimpses of what Michael Gifford was like before he fully transformed into Pamperchu. There's this one video where he's just experimenting with an old camera, and while his interests are already apparent, he comes across as much more rational and frankly more human than what he'd later become.
My video teacher was retiring, and this was a lot of his old equipment that he was just going to throw away, so he let me have it.
You see how normal and articulate he sounded? Sure, the undertone of crazy was a bit evident, but you get the point. Pamperchu is a normal person with weird habits, but he was not entirely crazy. Not the way he turned out to be as we gradually unravel him. His early videos were often short and didn't gain a lot of traction, but he continued to post anyway. He wasn't looking for fame, just whatever bits of attention his little, sweaty, furry hands could grasp. So what's the story behind this unusual lifestyle, you might wonder?
You're good at filming. Come on, let's do something funny. Tell me what
Yeah.
you do.
What are you
What do you
doing?
want me to do?
I don't know. What
Carry
are you
on.
doing?
Was he always drawn to diapers? Was he dropped on the head? Or is he just one of those lolcows on the internet with a spiraling buffoonery DNA?
Remember what you said. Promises. How we both forget.
A grown man way ahead of his years of puberty went around in a bunny suit. Yes, he had an unusual obsession. He was simply one of many weirdos on the internet. But what made people say, Pamperchu, enough is enough? Well, the answer lies in his journey to a site called Daily Diapers, one of the internet's primary communities for ABDLS, short for Adult Baby Diaper Lovers. You see, Pamperchu is a proud furry and member of the ABDL community. Daily Diapers is where he became a menace. And here's where the story gets even more complicated. If you thought the YouTube content was intense, wait until you hear about Pamperchu's forum activities. In 2008, Pamperchu's reign of internet terror began slowly yet surely. He had been embracing his ABDL passion for years, sharing it with friends and online communities without hesitation. But in this forum, he became a whole new definition of crazy. Pamperchu, 20 years old at the time, created a profile playing the age of a 5-year-old. Not too many 5-year-olds wearing diapers in the world, but hey, it's his safe space. And who are we to judge, right? Anyway, Pamperchu began sharing pictures and notes of his adult baby, exploits one jarring step at a time. It started with one of his associates, if that's the right word to use, an Asian man he is seen posing in a few pictures with on his Daily Diapers page. The man appeared a few times on his profile, with Pamperchu sitting on him and lying on his chest. We can't say for sure if hanging out with older men was a secret pleasure Pamperchu had indulged in the past, but this new development on the internet in 2008 indicated the start of something his viewers hadn't noticed before. Pamperchu and this Asian man had an undeniably close relationship, and considering the pair was one man with a love for frolicking in a bunny suit and an older man with quite an accommodating spirit and an ABDL fetish, it was easy to decode that something X-rated was going on behind those camera lenses. Curious internet detectives took it upon themselves to get to the bottom of this mystery. However, what they found was nothing but a dumpster fire of depraved information on a site called FetLife. Now, for the blissfully unaware, FetLife is like a support group for people with weird hobbies. You know, the kind of hobbies you'd only share with a psychiatrist when seeking mental help. But here you get to share it with thousands of strangers who are equally deranged. So the Asian man, named AB Mike, described himself as a pansexual man looking for friendship, specifically on the submissive side. Talk about priorities. His bio reads like the diary of an ex-convict. He states, I love to baby college-age guys who want to be babied with baby bottles, pacifiers, bibs, onesies, high chairs, cribs, things meant for a 1 or 2-year-old. I like to diaper them and dress them up in a cute onesie or baby outfit, put them in a high chair with a bib and spoon, feed them baby food. His entire biography is just one nauseating detail after another. Not to mention this man is oddly specific about what he wants. He claims he only babies smaller or slimmer guys, and being 6 foot tall is a deal breaker, non-negotiable. A bit of a warning now. This next part would need some thorough mental cleansing afterwards. Here's his taste for the personal hygiene of his desired college-age ABs. Babies don't have facial hair and keep their diaper area smooth or trimmed. I'm not sure babies actively keep their diaper area smooth and trimmed, but you can obviously see the crazy talk right there. The rest of his biography basically contains the same explicit desires that would retire Aphrodite and Dionysus in a heartbeat. AB Mike divulges that he doesn't enjoy porn and had joined FetLife to explore his newfound desire for ABS. It's a lot to unpack, honestly, but somehow Pamperchu wound up being one of AB Mike's boy toys, or baby toy. Is that right? I don't know. My last functional brain cell's working overtime to dissect this perversion. Anyway, moving on. Mike became a part of Pamperchu's life, and we see him spiral out of mental control at a snail's pace. Mike was there when the video of Pamperchu in a bunny onesie came out a few weeks later on his YouTube page.
Get it. Okay. Now stand. Now, let me take a look at your bunny costume. Oh, look at that cute. Look at that
At this point, Pamperchu was becoming more to the baby Mike wanted, and less the engineering genius he used to be. He was a whole vibe to many of his commenters. I mean, how many people were bold enough to become an internet meme in the years before 2010? He was truly as entertaining as he was revolting. His outfit, his behavior, everything about him was so out there that he actually caught the attention of G4 TV. Yeah, that's right. This man made it onto actual television in a news segment about furries. We're talking legitimate broadcast TV here. Pamperchu actually had his 15 minutes of mainstream fame, though he probably didn't realize it at the time. This was probably the closest he ever came to genuine mainstream recognition, though it was completely accidental. Back in 2009, G4's Attack of the Show was somewhat of a marker of recognition for the 2000s lolcows. The show had a segment on weird internet subcultures, focusing primarily on the furry community. During their video montage, Pamperchu appeared multiple times. It's kind of surreal to think that millions of people saw Pamperchu during primetime television without having any idea who he was, or what rabbit hole they could fall into if they decided to investigate his life further. From then on, he built up this small but dedicated fan base of people who were genuinely fascinated by his, let's call them, unique interests. And this absolute mad lad just kept going. He dropped this video called Day at the Park with My Daddy. And I'm not making this title up, guys, where he's literally running around an empty playground acting like a little kid. Then someone behind the camera, probably Mike, was filming and talking to him like he was his actual father.
Hi, Daddy.
Hi, baby. Don't jump.
Now that's not something you see on the internet every day. Pamperchu kept posting on his YouTube like G4 never happened. He shared videos of his usual vintage collectibles.
Today, at the thrift store, I found an old CD player from 1987.
As well as his usual diaper content. But then tragedy struck. Chu's original YouTube channel got nuked, completely removed from the platform. His content was simply too unsettling by YouTube standards. This is pretty common for channels that push boundaries, and Pamperchu is obviously not on the educational side of YouTube. Yeah, not a lot of learning going on there. Pamperchu lost his account, and everything seemed to simmer down a bit. However, the internet was too quick to celebrate. Fortunately for the diaper-loving man, and not so much for us, the evil universe had a backup plan. Pamperchu's YouTube days weren't over yet.
I am doing a demonstration for my friend about how to make steam come out of your mouth. So,
in 2019, he created a new account called Official Pamperchu, where he basically reintroduced himself in his bio and shunned people from using his content without his permission. I think I speak for the other reasonable side of the internet, that assessing content already made public would not always require a signed permission slip. But hey, it's Pamperchu we're talking about. Let's ignore the obvious misspelling of the word warning, and throw all logic out the window, like we haven't been doing that since this video started. Back to the topic, 3 years later, the worst thing happened. Apparently, some dedicated friend of Pamperchu's had created the Pamperchu Archive channel, which had a lot of content similar to Pamperchu's main account. What's wild is that this friend initially just mirrored his content to preserve it, but eventually handed over full control of the channel to Pamperchu himself. So now, the Pamperchu Archive functions as his main platform. This is both ironic and perfectly fitting for someone whose entire identity has been built around preserving things that others have discarded. Now, Pamperchu's YouTube channels, Pamperchu Archives and Official Pamperchu, are dump sites for internet garbage. In the years between the creation of these two accounts, and some time before that, Pamperchu had been going wild in other online forums. Before we get to it, be warned, as every milestone from this point in Pamperchu's life was a slip further away from human decency and closer to derangement.
Being a parent is difficult. You have to figure out a lot of shit.
and that's why I love children
Yeah.
so much.
You see, Pamperchu's descent into the unethical Pamperchu we know today started back in 2013, when he made what might be one of his top 10 most controversial contributions to the internet. Pamperchu created a thread where he was literally bragging about hiding diaper photos on flash drives. And here's the kicker. He was specifically giving this advice to minors. Note the keywords. We're talking about a 37-year-old man encouraging kids to secretly collect and hide this type of content. Even by internet standards, this was crossing some serious lines. Pamperchu was unrelenting in his self-imposed guidance counseling job on daily diapers. Well, it was the only platform he wasn't banned on. Remember, his YouTube account was non-existent, and he had to unleash some sort of suppressed degenerate energy to keep body and mind stable. And just as you expected, it got worse. In what had become legendary in the worst possible way, Pamperchu participated in a forum discussion about wearing diapers found in the trash. Remember how I mentioned Pamperchu's habit of dumpster diving for used diapers? Well, it gets so much worse, and I'm genuinely questioning my life choices for having to explain this to you. So, in a set of forum posts where fellow ABS were discussing how to get used diapers, Pamperchu jumped into the discussion with his brilliant words of wisdom. Get ready, because we're about to witness a battle of wits between Dumb and Dumber on this online forum. The conversation started with this fellow with what appears to be his own version of a life problem. He says, "I can't buy diapers, so I just go Trouth Track to find some. What do you think? Is it a good idea?" Now, we're not sure whether Trouth Track was an honest spelling error or code name for searching through trash in the ABDL dictionary, but from the responses we do know his people understood him and knew that this user was asking whether or not used diapers was an intellectual option to go for. Now, Pamperchu came to the rescue with his own solution, a pattern that he claimed was foolproof. He says he does it, and by it he meant he takes used diapers from the trash. Wet diapers are very safe and can be reused, but poopy diaper can make you sick, so just be careful. I've saved wet and poopy diapers from dumpsters for over 10 years, and I have never been sick. What a bad time to possess a good comprehension skills. Not only did he endorse this practice, but he bragged about doing it himself regularly for over 10 years. Pamperchu, with the body of a 30-year-old, admitted that he had never fallen sick ever since he started this heavens forbid lifestyle. And what's worse, he ended the deranged text with a "go for it, just be careful" note, as if it were true words of wisdom. And because this is Pamperchu we're talking about, he couldn't just leave it at that. He had to casually drop into the conversation that he'd been using a vintage 1971 radar range microwave to heat up these recovered diapers. Now, for those of you who don't know your microwave history, and honestly, why would you? The radar range is literally featured on Wikipedia's main microwave oven page. We're talking about a genuine piece of kitchen history here, the kind of appliance that collectors would pay serious money for, and Pamperchu casually had it among his vintage collection.
I think this thing's gonna be running tonight. Let's hope so. Okay, I have put the microwave back together.
But here's the absolute kicker. This isn't some pristine museum piece sitting in a display case. This beautiful piece of vintage Americana is being used as a diaper sanitization station. I cannot stress enough how cursed this information is. It's like finding out someone was using the Mona Lisa as a chopping board. Let me pause here and say that even the other forum members, people who shared similar interests, were absolutely horrified by these revelations. A fellow member of the forum commented, "You can contract diseases through urine, and your advice is also very dangerous. Also, a microwave will not kill off all bacteria and could start a fire. You know, it's serious business when your one community says, bro, no." When you look at it, it's absolutely legendary for all the wrong reasons. Imagine people in your niche online community who believe in things that would make most people click away immediately. And yet, every single person in this community starts desperately trying to talk you out of this behavior. Like, these are his people, his community, and they're all basically staging an intervention through forum posts. They're warning him about infections, diseases, basic hygiene, normal human concerns. However, Pamperchu's response, it was something else entirely. He basically doubles down with the confidence of a man who has absolutely no self-awareness left. He retorted with short, unnecessary comebacks, talking about his decade-long dumpster diving career like he's some kind of expert consultant. We have immune systems that can handle most things that we come in contact with. An ultimate plot twist was when he essentially told his own community to stop being judgmental. Jez, you people worry too much. If someone want to play with used diapers, they should be able to without everyone telling them how dangerous or gross it is. I know it can make you sick, but you know what? I've never got sick from it. But honestly, when people who share your exact interests are telling you you've crossed a line, maybe it's time for some self-reflection? Unfortunately, you see that tiny voice in our heads that we call conscience. Yeah, for Pamperchu, it's on a steady malfunction, as if it only kicks in to remind him of the best ways to play with decomposing diapers, but remains eerily silent on matters of basic human decency. When you're shocking people who are a part of your community, you know you've gone too far. The screenshots of these conversations are still floating around the internet, and they make for genuinely disturbing reading. Here's what absolutely breaks my brain about this whole situation. This is the same person who could take apart electronics from the 1970s and somehow bring them back to life. We're talking about vintage technology. You have to be legitimately brilliant to reverse engineer solutions for obsolete hardware.
Ready?
This man had the technical skills to resurrect dead computers, could probably explain circuit boards in his sleep, and had this incredible knack for understanding how old technology worked. Yet somehow, all of that intelligence just vanished when it came to basic hygiene and health safety. It's like watching a neurosurgeon who's also convinced that eating expired food makes you stronger. The genius paradox is absolutely staggering.
Power supply.
will forever mourn the loss of such capabilities. Moving forward, the forum incidents had serious consequences. Pamperchu found himself preemptively banned from his diaper-focused communities. These communities basically decided that, even by their standards, Pamperchu was too much to handle. Most of his content from these platforms has since been scrubbed away, leaving only fragments and screenshots as evidence of his digital footprint. Now, if you're thinking this was the end of Pamperchu's epic series of deranged online antics, think again, because he was only marinating in his own filthy corner with more content.
This is Pamperchu, and today I found a new piece of art. You might recognize this art.
In 2014, Pamperchu made a public statement that shocked a lot of people. He announced that he had been diagnosed with cancer, specifically Hodgkin's lymphoma.
Right here, that's the cancer. Those two lumps right there, they correspond to those two big bright spots.
Now on the bright side, Hodgkin's is one of the more treatable forms of cancer, especially if caught early, and it typically responds pretty well to chemotherapy. Still, it's no joke. And despite the fact that Pamperchu had already built up quite a reputation for his strange online behavior, this was one of those rare moments where the internet came together. Even the notoriously harsh Kiwi Farms community, people who usually spend their time mocking and documenting lol cows, were surprisingly supportive. For once, the focus wasn't on making fun of him, but on genuinely wishing him well. But in typical Pamperchu fashion, things didn't stay grounded for long. Over the next few years, he went back to doing what he always did, uploading random, disjointed videos that alternated between two of his greatest passions, diapers and vintage electronics. It reached a point where internet users began to question his employment status. While the internet has documented pretty much every disturbing detail about this guy's life, there's one mystery nobody's ever gotten a straight answer to. How does he make his money? You see, Pamperchu was stacking up on boxes and boxes of diapers, and he only shared videos of his leisure time. But aside from these kind of content, there was really no video that could offer a full or even partial glimpse into Pamperchu's corporate life. Other than the fact that we had established his expertise in repairing electronics, there was no true understanding of the nature of the source of his daily income.
I've been wanting to volunteer at the museum, but I haven't done it yet.
Because let's be real. No man who openly pisses himself in a bunny onesie on camera is also holding down a 9 to 5. Or is he? The context? Don't ask me. It's always as random as it gets with this guy. In Pamperchu's catalog of videos, before the good Lord took it down, you'll notice something. He'll show you his dirty house, but he never revealed what he does for work. Not once. And honestly, that makes sense. Can you imagine this guy walking into a meeting with HR? He'd be on some kind of workplace watch list instantly. But as it turns out, Pamperchu isn't just some random lunatic off the street. No, this dude actually has a degree in electrical engineering. Let that sink in for a second. The same man who waddles around in a bunny suit has the credentials to literally design the hardware in your phone. There was one video where he spoke about the kind of wage he'd receive for his kind of job, whatever it is.
8 hours a day, you're working for like 1 hour or whatever the job takes. But that's what you get paid for the kind of work I do. I have a master's in electrical engineering. It's a lot of college and a lot of reading.
This was quite a sizable paycheck for someone in that economy. But you know the thing about working per hour? You actually have to work by the hour, and this is nothing Pamperchu had shown. Not even by mistake. At one point, he revealed that he worked in a clean room, the kind of sterile, high-security environment where tech companies make advanced electronics. We know this because Pamperchu himself took photos in the full clean room suit, grinning like a maniac while dressed like a space janitor. Also, in the same bio where he disclosed this hidden part about himself, he revealed he worked as an acoustics engineer at a sound company. That's pretty slick. Even too slick for someone as depraved as Pamperchu. More videos soon on projects I'm working on at the lab. But after all that, his career became one giant black hole. Over the years, he'd mentioned having outrageous jobs, like this one time he mentioned working in an industry producing explosives.
I work in bomb accessories. I love bombs. I work in explosives.
But every time he talks about them, it's vague to the point of useless. In one video description, he casually drops that he was working at a sound company. That's it. No name, no proof, nothing. Then at another point, he claimed he worked for a diaper company.
Robots that make computer chips. But I also did a lot of work in diapers. Diapers and computer chips. Diapers and computer...
Which, yeah, that sounds about as believable as me saying I worked at NASA because I bought a telescope once. But with Pamperchu, viewers impossible to know if he's being serious or just trolling because the guy has a long history of making up stories or straight up lying. So while it's possible that he's held down a few real jobs, we can't confirm anything. His employment history is basically one big mystery. So if his job history is vague nonsense, the question becomes, how is this man funding his lifestyle of non-stop diapers and vintage electronics? Well, buckle up, because here's where things get wild. Pamperchu is an early Bitcoin miner.
And over here we have one of my Bitcoin miners.
Yes, the Diaper Man was mining crypto before it was cool. In fact, some of his older videos show off his homemade mining rigs, literal Frankenstein machines he built himself to churn out digital gold. And Pamperchu did share on the internet that he was indeed mining and hoping to save his Bitcoin. For the first time since the start of this video, I'm genuinely impressed. Now let's look at the numbers here, because this is where it gets ridiculous. A user on an online forum investigated this part of Pamperchu's hidden life.
110. We have 220 coming in right from the breaker, so I was gonna switch that over to 220.
So, in 2013, his rig was earning around 0.02 BTC per month. Doesn't sound like much, right? Well, keep watching. By 2015, that number had jumped to 0.05 BTC per month. By 2016, he was pushing 0.07 BTC per month. And by late 2016, he had upgraded his rig to run at about 4 to 5 terahashes. Then in 2017, he claimed to be running at 41 terahashes. At that point, he was pulling in 0.076 BTC every single month. That translated to around $700 to $800 a month in 2017. And when Bitcoin spiked in December that year, he was making closer to $2,000 a month. That's right. And while you were probably grinding away at some minimum wage job, Pamperchu was sitting at home in a diaper, mining internet money like it was going out of style. So how rich was he? How much crypto did this freak actually have stashed away? Conservative estimates suggest he could easily have 5 to 10 bitcoins tucked away just from mining. But if he held on to them long term, remember he was in the game early, it's not insane to think he could have 50, 100, maybe even more. That's potentially millions of dollars. Millions! All in the hands of a guy who spends his time wearing used diapers and hoarding broken VCRs. Let that sink in. Between his crypto earnings and odd jobs, true or false, it's entirely possible that he doesn't actually work anymore. The guy might just be living off investments, spending his fortune on diapers and secondhand circuit boards.
Today at the surplus store, I brought home another box of miscellaneous boards and stuff. The past few months I've been going...
He's practically financially stable enough to not need a normal job. Who would have thought that his availability would be the reason why a lot of viewers are suffering from his online perverseness?
Hello everyone, this is Pamperchu. Now, this barely got half full and it's over 200 pounds. And there's flies everywhere. Honestly,
Pamperchu's content grew progressively irritating when he started posting videos about crushing used diapers. This is one of those rare, ugly videos.
the squish test here. Wow, pretty good. Oh man. Let's see if I can get one to... Man, no, those are strong.
First of all, we can see a pile of already used diapers casually sitting by the corner of his house.
Alright, here. I'll just grab one of these, a blue one, because we gotta do testing.
And the absolute horror for his viewers when he squished them with his feet. Of course, the YouTube comments were filled with A-logs, pointing out how weird and disturbing his content was. In the blink of an eye, Pamperchu overturned the good sentiments his viewers had for him, and many users rejoiced over news of his cancer. Cool, my wish came true, still got 4 left. But here's the thing, Pamperchu seemed completely unbothered. He just kept doing his thing, unfazed by the mockery. Frankly, and I know it's coming late, but I feel bad for the numerous babies and actual grown-ups with serious needs who need these diapers.
The new biggest size, it says right there, our largest size yet. So this is just on the market. I'm so big it won't even come out of the box.
But moving forward, Pamperchu continued to maintain this flow. He was already undergoing chemotherapy on the side, yet lived his unsettling life without any reservations. Meanwhile, on his daily diapers page, he was actively responding to forum discussions on baby bottles and purchasing baby diapers. In some instances, he left out bits and pieces of his past, including this particular post where he mentions his 6-year-old fursuit named Sandy Wolf.
Hello everyone, this is Sandy Wolf. Today I'd like to show you my K-Pro computer.
Now this is where we need to pay close attention to Pamperchu's gradual fall from sanity. Ever since his cancer announcement, he began slipping away from normalcy post after post. He was never the most average man in the crowding, however things began to take a dark turn from here on out, and in the haze of his spiraling madness, Pamperchu would leave out similar chunks of details about his past. This time, it was his furry. Subsequent times were about his dad, like this one, where he mentioned sleeping in the crib whenever he visited his dad. Pamperchu's characteristic trait of leaving out fragments of his past would eventually put him in one-on-one session with other internet users in the years to come. By that time, Pamperchu would have already gained the reputation of being an online reject, and netizens would diagnose him as a serial liar and schizophrenic. But for now, there are a lot more mind-boggling Pamperchu milestones to unpack. Let's fast forward to 2019. By this point, there had been long-running rumors about Pamperchu being a heavy drug user. His erratic behavior is...
I told you to stay close! Stay close! Alright, so this is... Sometimes you like these.
His slurred speech patterns in some videos, and his increasingly chaotic uploads all seem to point in that direction. But in August that year, he finally confirmed what many had suspected. In one video, Pamperchu admitted outright that he took drugs.
I need them to function. If you were wondering why it was like my videos are different, because I didn't have the right drugs. Now I have the right drugs.
However, in another rare, serious video, he went on a rant about his drug and alcohol problems stemming from childhood.
I haven't had morphine in 2 years, and it's starting to really get to me. I took it for 10 years before that. And the other one...
The entire video, 12 minutes long, was just Pamperchu basically narrating his family's habit of drinking. Then he delves into other details about his own indulgence, talking about how he had been popping pills for quite some years.
It's hard to say. Every single video from like 2008 to a couple years ago, I was high on, well, I wouldn't say high on, but I was doing those two drugs in combination.
Since his confessions were coming out in slurs, and the descriptions of his drug intake seemed rather avoidant, it was difficult to tell whether or not he was talking while under the influence. Plus, his habit of mixing truth with untruth took reign at some point, when he claimed that his grandmother let him try a drink when he was just a toddler. Lest I forget, it's Pamperchu we're talking about here. We can't exactly expect some kind of logic from this lolcow's reasoning. Back to the discussion. The video plays off with Pamperchu getting emotional all of a sudden.
I'm gonna kill myself with drugs. It's pissing me off.
At this point, we find out that he had won against cancer. However, we also learn that there are underlying storms he had fought against in his life.
Sure, I went through a lot of things.
It gets you wondering, what other things could he have been talking about? What had Michael Gifford gone through in his life? What created Pamperchu?
That's pretty strong. You can't beat up your own refrigerator. I mean,
Pamperchu's mental state online was really taking a dive. In one of his videos, he went on to describe hallucinations, hearing voices, and even expressed a desire to try to go sober.
The voices in my head are pretty strong this morning. It started around 6:45. Anyway, I watched NASA.
After mentioning the voices in his head, Pamperchu quickly deflects, talking about a range of unrelated topics from NASA to breakfast. Then somewhere along the line, he talks about these voices once again.
Anyway, yeah, voices in my head been talking to me all night. Actually, no, just a couple hours. But it's really annoying.
Now that's concerning. This was Pamperchu, the bunny onesie-wearing, diaper-loving certified engineer/grown man, talking about voices in his head that for all intents and purposes were not the voice of conscience. And in just this video, his explanations kept getting worse. He spoke about going outside his balcony to cool off, only to see an anomaly.
And so I thought I'd sit outside, and I saw the anomaly. It's just the first time I've seen it in the morning.
And he deflected again, choosing to showcase different household items at random. His ID card. A bottle of Coke from 1995. Everything and anything his mind could wander off to, except the disturbing mental problems he had been unknowingly divulging. For a brief moment, it seemed like maybe he was self-aware enough to get help. But that tiny glimmer of hope didn't last, because just a week later, Pamperchu uploaded a now-deleted video so self-destructive, so incriminating, that it would cement his reputation forever. Currently, only the audio is still on the internet. In that video, Pamperchu went on a completely unprovoked rant.
Doesn't matter what my children are, I just love them. And right now, I'm craving.
You just can't make this up anywhere. Pamperchu straight up called himself a pedophile, and then made the horrifying claim that his friends were either okay with it, or were also pedophiles themselves.
Yeah, we're all files. I'm not.
But if you're constantly hanging out or living with someone that problematic, the judges are kind of caught between a rock and a hard place when trying to believe you. Well, the video didn't stay up for long. Pamperchu deleted it quickly, and even without his effort, the universe would have intervened sooner or later when his YouTube page was taken down. Pamperchu had deleted the video, but unfortunately for him, someone from Kiwi Farms salvaged the audio, and it spread like wildfire.
I just love my children. My pretend children.
Listening to it, you can hear how unstable he was at the time. His speech patterns are all over the place, he sounds intoxicated, and there's this undercurrent of depression in his tone. It wasn't just disturbing, it was sad, pathetic, and deeply unsettling all at once. Over the next few months, Pamperchu's mental state seemed to spiral even further. He uploaded one of his infamous videos where he appeared nearly naked, and had one of his roommates put a diaper on him.
So this is what it's like being a Pamperchu and getting diapered.
This is what it's like being an adult baby. I personally am 24.
We'll just stop there for the sake of whatever shred of sanity we're still grappling onto. This video is one of those moments where you just sit back and wonder, what is this man doing with his life? Moving on, by January 2020, fate finally caught up with him. Pamperchu was arrested and jailed. Court records later revealed a shocking truth. He had been charged with second-degree criminal mischief for property damage under $500. Pamperchu's landlord practically accused him of trashing the property intentionally.
I just got out of jail for criminal mischief, and you can look that up.
Now, according to Pamperchu's own explanation, the reality was much more mundane. He claimed he had simply broken a dish and clogged a toilet, and admitted he made a lot of noise that night.
And I am not guilty of breaking a dish and clogging a toilet. I did make a lot of noise that night.
He denied doing anything serious, but here's the kicker. The clogged toilet wasn't just because of careless plumbing, it was because he had allegedly tried to flush a diaper down it. If you followed his content at all, that's actually believable. He had posted videos on his official Pamperchu page demonstrating how to flush diapers.
Let me go like this.
This is such a bizarre behavior that not even toddlers would think to do. Even when someone asked, Pamperchu couldn't provide a reasonable answer. Pamperchu sure knows how to reinvent the concept of bad and crazy. After his release, he announced that he was moving into a new apartment, but this new apartment was actually just his parents' house. He stayed there for a few months before eventually purchasing his own place.
This is my first time on my own with roommates that I know. So I just thought I'd do it.
And if that wasn't enough, he also finally confirmed he was using meth.
Meth is awesome, you guys. I mean, I like to store a line and put on some baby diapers and just squish around in my baby diapers for hours and days and days. And then after I get done with baby diapers, I like to play with electronics.
Well, that pretty much sums up his biography. And at this point, there was no hiding it. His drug problem was real, it was severe, and it was feeding directly into his increasingly unhinged behavior. Now at this point, his YouTube videos grow increasingly nauseating. Pamperchu was doing all sorts. Dehydrating a diaper,
Power?
cooking diapers, squishing diapers, and the best, or worst, part, showcasing his stash of decaying diapers. Yes, I'm sorry, but you heard that right. Pamperchu unraveled a bucket filled with what he called his vintage dirty diaper collection. He sealed it, more like covered the bucket with a lid, to keep the flies out. Masterclass act from your genius lol cow, don't you think?
Very special. Oh man, I don't know if I want to nuke this one. That smells so good. I actually might keep that one. I want to nuke.
You hear that? The sound of a madman spiraling into a deeper and sicker mental decline. The rest of the video unfolds with him removing more dirty diapers, and I'm just going to stop here for the sake of our last meal. That brings us to 2022, the year where Pamperchu's downward spirals kicked into high gear. He started eating diaper.
There's delicious. The insides, and I mean, I have a craft single, so I like.
Up until then, a lot of the mockery aimed at him came from outsiders observing his bizarre lifestyle.
Door number 1, we have a new car!
But in 2022, the scorn he received was largely brought on by his own actions. He was no longer just some eccentric man-child with an unusual obsession. His drug use, his disturbing admissions, and his reckless behavior turned him into one of the most disgusting figures in his online circles.
Let's see. Oh wow, it looks great. I want to see what it looks like on the plate. Okay. Very nice. Doesn't need salt, though.
That's a ready-to-eat package, by the way. But how he managed to make eating look so disgusting, a superpower. However, this is nothing compared to this next one, when he joined Kiwi Farms. At first, a user named Pamperchu joined the thread. He posted a bunch of gross Pamperchu, claiming that it was at his own request. Shortly after, Pamperchu registered for Kiwi Farms and sent unrequested pictures of his face and feet to prove that he was the real deal. He started off on a high note. People in the forum received him properly. However, his shocking openness about his kinks and personal affairs quickly wore out his welcome. This got worse when he discovered the live chats, where he rambled on about a wide range of topics. He spoke about his hatred for monkeys.
I hate monkeys, and I want to kill an animal.
Pamperchu kept sending audio messages of his deep, dark fantasies. He stated that he would hurt an animal
and also I'm gonna eat it. I'm not just gonna it. No, I want to learn. I have never done it before, but I really like that stuff.
These morbid fantasies did not stop at animal cruelty. They extended to rants about his love for children. There was really no rock bottom for this guy.
But I like children. Yeah, I mean, I'm not a bad pedophile. I just like children. I mean, I like to cuddle up with them or, hang out with them and do stuff, feed them, things like that.
You think these ones are horrible? Just listen to what this contradictory sicko said in another follow-up audio message.
What I mean is, I don't want to stick it in. I can just play with their feet if they don't mind. But they have that on Telegram too. You can.
The mere fact that he sounds as if he would wait for a child's consent is completely wild. Pamperchu is basically telling the world that in his mind's eye, children are naturally mature enough to agree to illicit and adult-related activities. We see it in his response to this question. In an instance where a similarly mentally afflicted fellow asked if it was appropriate to sleep with a 4-year-old, Pamperchu responded, yes, as long as it's consensual. It's all the more apparent in this clip.
Yes, I would love to take a kid on out. I mean, I got a car, and we can go to McDonald's and have a hamburger. That would be so much fun. We can eat the hamburger on the back of the car, or on the front, I don't care.
First off, Pamperchu states that he would take a kid out on a date. Now, as absurd as it already sounds, that isn't even the most bothersome thing he said in that audio clip.
But, no, I won't have sex with my cousin. Although, I do like that. That's no, I'm not going to have sex with my cousin.
There is no defending this level of depravity. What Pamperchu is openly admitting to in these audio messages have landed people in jail. They have attracted heavy penalties across states, and even stigmatized offenders for life. Yet this man named Michael Gifford, aka Pamperchu, was speaking of it without a care in the world. Of course, members of the Kiwi Farm community were appalled by the rep this furry and adult baby was giving them. No one was standing for it, but Pamperchu simply couldn't care less. He simply maintained his potty streak, dumping unwarranted takes on various topics of his own interest. Here's one time when he didn't have to, but clearly chose to tell the members of the forum what he liked sticking to his face.
But I will say, I do like sticking the old baby diapers in my face. I like the ammonia, whatever. I got one saved up right now.
The absurdity reached sky high when he started diversifying his niche to topics on borderline racism.
Isn't like the worst word nowadays? Like, you can't call someone a I mean, you can say but you can't say anymore. Anyway, I don't know.
His sins are endless, and the poor viewers were a mixture of confused, worried, and utterly disgusted. I know perfectly where I fit in those categories. The drugs, the voices in his head, everything was putting him on overdrive. And he was blissfully returning to the same platform with new ideas day after day. In one account, he tried to excuse his odd behavior, saying he wasn't that bad a person.
Oh, no, that's just a fantasy. Just because I'm a pedophile doesn't mean I'm going to do that in real life, okay? I just... don't expect me to be a bad person.
I think once again logic left the room after that explanation. Pamperchu's status as a pedophile quickly preceded his name on the forum, and just when things couldn't get any worse, a user named Commandant Swordfish reported a sickening video Pamperchu had shared on their Telegram group. Prepare yourself as I tell you. This was a video of disgusting Pamperchu sleeping with a rabbit. After a few censored screenshots were disseminated around the community to prove Pamperchu's guilt, the jig was finally up. More people wished for his removal from existence, as per usual, and some even hoped he would be locked up in a mental institution. Much later, another user shared a screenshot of his conversation with Pamperchu, where he confronted him about the rabbit incident. Pamperchu's response came in 2 audio messages that will leave you completely horrified.
No, that wasn't me. That's somebody else. But I will let you know it's one of my favorite videos. I've always wanted to do that.
The way he chuckled, the lack of remorse or sympathy in his tone. This was a direct indication of either traces of psychopathy or mental problem that Pamperchu was clearly suffering from. You know the complete irony of the whole situation? Pamperchu used to keep a rat as a pet. Long before this side of him began to ooze out to the surface, he had a pet rat that featured in some of his videos.
Cute little rat. She's really lonely right now, so we're finding her another companion.
So it does make you wonder where things went wrong. What could have caused Michael Gifford to spiral for deeply out of control? Was the hard drugs only to blame, or was there something else at play? This train of thought will lead us into a new aspect of Pamperchu's past and how it framed the man repulsed by the internet today. Before we dig too far into the rabbit hole that is Pamperchu's life, there's one thing you need to understand. This guy is his own worst source. Most of what we know about him comes directly from him. And if you've ever seen even 5 minutes of his content, you already know how dangerous that is. So, while we can piece together some kind of timeline, take everything with a massive grain of salt. Because when it comes to Pamperchu, the truth is always buried under a pile of lies, diapers, and deranged storytelling. Pamperchu's life from the very start was unusual, to say the least. Now, most people's earliest memories involve something wholesome, like playing with toys, learning to ride a bike, or embarrassing school photos. Pamperchu's earliest childhood story? Being molested. Yeah, not exactly the cheeriest way to open an autobiography. According to him, when he was only 3 or 4 years old, he was groomed by a man named Steve, a family friend who worked with his grandparents. The story goes that Pamperchu snuck into the back seat of his grandparents' car. Steve followed him and engaged in highly inappropriate behavior with him on the spot.
I've known him for 30 years. He's 68 now. I met him when I was a toddler. He knocked me off in the back of my Camaro.
The Camaro in question was a gift from his grandparent, but that's not the point. The point here is that this man, Steve, who was 30 years older than him, had continued this pattern for quite some time until Pamperchu reached his 20s. According to Pamperchu, their relationship was contractual, with Steve having signed a 10-year-long commitment to take care of him.
So we signed a contract 30 years ago that he had to take care of me for 10 years, whatever. I can't go on and on about it, but...
Well, we already know what could have come with that pact. Steve wasn't there to be a foster parent or godparent to Pamperchu. His grandparents had obviously set him up for some premium...
Alright, well, say hi. There's Uncle Bill. Hi. I know...
He's not here.
Yeah.
Michael said, say hi. Hi. Say hi.
Hi.
What's worse? Pamperchu recalled details that seemed too straightforward to be lies. He stated that his grandparents told him how to act in the Camaro.
Yeah, but I remember my grandpa said, pull your pants down a little when you get in the back. He said, pull your pants down a little when you get in the back. And I already knew what that was. You know, I think I was 3 or 4.
Although we might not be entirely sold on his exact age at the time, the composure behind the recollection does shine a ray of authenticity on the topic. And mind you, it's a really serious topic. And if a deranged person happened to be talking about it in such chronological detail, it called for some form of scrutiny.
I remember getting back in the car with Steve. Now I can say this, it's been 30 years.
And here's the part that really twists the knife. Pamperchu himself doesn't frame this as abuse. Instead, he defended Steve's actions, claiming that because it wasn't real and because he supposedly enjoyed it, that somehow made it okay.
I liked it. I was happy. And then every time I saw him over the years when I was a kid, I was like, I forgot about you. I'm worried I'm going to forget about you.
But no, that is not how trauma works. And it's a clear example of how early can mess with someone's perception of reality. To call this Stockholm Syndrome would be underselling it. This is a guy who never even had the chance to process abuse as abuse. He just baked it into his identity from day one. Flash forward to when Pamperchu turned 18. Instead of the classic milestones like graduating high school, getting a job, or maybe going off to college, he dropped a bombshell on his parents. He came out to them as an adult baby. And the wildest part? His parents didn't even disown him. Now, most families would have hit the nuclear button on that relationship immediately. But the Giffords, they stuck around. With the kind of grandparents Pamperchu described in his life, it's clearly not a surprise that this happened. But the worst was yet to come. Steve was still right around the corner. When he was in his 20s, Steve asked him out on a date.
You know, and finally when I was in my 20s, I forgot about him, of course. But then he invited me over for a date on his birthday.
Now let's do a quick math. This Steve was still way older than him, and the 10-year contract they supposedly had when Pamperchu was a toddler should have expired. But for some reason, the now 50-something-year-old man reached out, and for a similar lewd reason.
He built me a house. He took care of me for 10 years, rent free. So now I'm in my own house.
Yeah.
But That's what the contract said.
It is unclear whether this was a renewed contract, but for reasons that defy all logic, Pamperchu agreed. Steve provided for him for quite some time until he got his own apartment. Pamperchu eventually disclosed that Steve was the only man he has had sex with, and it happened one time. Just one time, and of course, it had to be at the most ridiculous setting imaginable. According to him, it happened when he was 22 years old at a furry convention. Steve was 55, and both of them were wearing fursuits.
I was wearing a fursuit. My 55-year-old boyfriend, he rode me, like rodeo, and I got off.
Yeah. Ride that
it's the only time I ever had sex. I was in a fursuit. I promise. That's the only time.
And when the contract finally expired, they split on friendly terms and remained friends. Because in the Pamperchu cinematic universe, child abuse, manipulation, and bizarre love contracts all somehow end with a handshake and a smile. But here's where the story gets a little confusing. These series of revelations didn't come out of nowhere. Around this time, Pamperchu had been talking to a man online known as Daddy Inky, real name Paul Freeman. And if that name sounds creepy already, wait until you hear what he was about. Daddy Inky was part of the ABDL community. He was called out for interacting with minors, and even had the audacity to act justified for being repulsive. Now here's the kicker. It's very likely Pamperchu had been talking to Daddy Inky even before he turned 18, which means Daddy Inky could either be Steve, or we're looking at a pattern of older men shaping and his lifestyle choices before he even reached adulthood. When you look at all of this together, it becomes painfully clear. Pamperchu's entire identity was shaped by exploitation and predatory relationships. His choices weren't really choices at all. They were the result of older men manipulating him from childhood into adulthood, and that explains so much about who he became later. The diapers, the baby talk, the fursuits, the bizarre online persona. It's not just fetish content. It's a coping mechanism built on years of being and convinced this lifestyle was normal.
Talking about today, and no, I'm not luring kids. The police are like, "Are you luring kids with toys?" No, these are from the neighbors. Luring kids.
Yeah, he's not a 100% normal in the head. Pamperchu wasn't just a man in diapers. He was a man who never escaped the grip of his abusers, and who turned that twisted foundation into his whole identity. This habit shone through his weird habits with adults around him, starting from his neighbor who he let sniff his feet.
You gotta smell my feet for 5 minutes.
And change it right in front of him. To the relationship he had with his other associates / boyfriends, Snuggy Rebel Foxy, and Marley, all of whom shared similar tastes and interests with Pamperchu. But despite his unusual behavior, Pamperchu still met people who easily surpassed his freak. One of them was a man named Doom Guy. In a conversation which was secretly recorded by Pamperchu himself, Doom Guy asked Pamperchu for onion links, which were basically links to the dark web where he could find pictures of underage girls.
Girls?
Pictures, like I said, female ages ranging from like 14 to 17.
The one I sent you is probably the best. The one I sent you is probably the best, but you know.
The audio clip was all about these two degenerates talking over each other about their deranged fantasies. But what Doom Guy had no idea he was on tape. Pamperchu noted that if he had money, he would build a basement where he'd basically lock people and use them as a source of entertainment. And like that, the rest of the audio spanned out in the pair making nonsensical conversation while not even being on the same page. Pamperchu was cautioning the use of real credit cards on the dark sites, while Doom Guy vocally fetishized young girls. He was a deranged clown fest, I tell you.
Oh, if you travel there, oh my god, their feet are so delicious.
But yeah, they claim to have
whatever you
photos
want, or the
degradation,
or
I found those pages.
By this point in the story, Pamperchu was already infamous for his gross antics online, but it got even worse in 2025, when he dropped what might be the single most unhinged video of his entire career, and trust me, that is not a statement I make lightly. See, after his Telegram channel got nuked, either by himself or by moderators who couldn't stomach the content, his only remaining platform was YouTube. And while he still uploaded weird, gross, and sometimes downright disturbing videos, for the most part, they were tame by his standards. But then, in late July of 2025, out of nowhere, Pamperchu posted something so vile, so bizarre, that it genuinely stands out as one of the most shocking moments in his entire catalog. This was not just weird fetish content. This was not just gross out humor. This was something that teetered right on the edge of illegality, without quite crossing into it. The video starts with Pamperchu sitting in his house, surrounded by his usual clutter. He drags out a plastic bin full of soiled diapers. Yeah, you already know this is going downhill fast. He immediately starts digging through the pile, pulling out random diapers and sniffing them loudly on camera. He comments on how they smell so good.
But that's why I have it sealed. Let's try this one, though. Oh, this one smells really good.
But he didn't stop there. He decided to put the year-old diaper in his kitchen microwave. But before shoving it in, he rubbed some of the feces on his hands like it's lotion.
Yeah, I'm disgusting. You better believe it. And dehydrate it.
Eventually, the microwave dings. Pamperchu rushed over, pulled out the diaper, and immediately let it splatter all over his carpet. He didn't even try to clean it up. Instead, he bragged again about how good it smelled and mentioned when he wore it, "Gosh, that's sick." Then, in what might be the cherry on top, he casually tossed it into another room like it's garbage. Which, I mean, yeah, it is garbage, but it's also biohazard level disgusting.
Love that.
Let me remind you that he microwaves his food in that same oven. Valid take home, don't eat at people's houses. Anyway, so Pamperchu plopped himself down on his couch, still surrounded by filth, and began singing Old MacDonald Had a Farm. Yeah, nursery rhymes, with Pamperchu cover lyrics.
Old wet diaper. E-I-E-I-O. Now you're gonna grow up and you're gonna love my feet or hate me or whatever.
While covered in feces. Then he began bragging about being a cult leader. According to him, he wants children to grow up worshipping at the Church of Pamperchu.
Ones, you're gonna love me, and I want you to be like me. I'm a cult leader.
That statement alone is horrifying enough, but this is where it crossed from gross to terrifying. Chu walked outside and showed off several boxes of children's toys lying around his property. He then looks directly at the camera and says,
"If you have a kid or you are a kid, please knock on my door politely and come on in. And I'll clean for you. I'll cook for you. I will do anything to have a child."
That is not just a red flag. That is a full-on 5-alarm fire siren. It is one of the most disturbing things he has ever said on camera. And considering the mountain of disturbing things he's put online, that's saying something.
All right, so I was sitting down and I wet and then it didn't leak at all. You can see the little pattern went away. It's so wide enough. It had no leaks at all, so it's actually really, really nice.
Out of all of Pamperchu's antics, this video stands out as possibly his most disturbing piece of content. It's not just the disgusting imagery or the insane rambling. It's the combination of fetish behavior, delusions of grandeur, and thinly veiled predatory undertones. Pamperchu is openly fantasizing about drawing children into his home, all while covering himself in literal human waste. It's a nightmare scenario, and the fact that YouTube even hosted this video at all is shocking. We've gone through the bizarre, stomach-turning, and sometimes downright terrifying saga of Pamperchu, also known as Michael Gifford. And while it's easy to laugh at the absurdity of a man in his late 30s dressing up in a fursuit and microwaving diapers, it's also important to step back and look at the bigger picture. Because beyond the shock factor, beyond the internet memes, there's a real person here. A person who in many ways completely vanished into the character he created online. Pamperchu's lifestyle wasn't just bizarre, it was a cocktail of contradictions. On one hand, he had genuine skills. He loved repairing vintage electronics, saving old tech that most people would have thrown in the trash. He had the curiosity of a tinkerer, always trying to breathe new life into forgotten relics. But then, on the other hand, you had the diapers. The ABDL fetish that he didn't just indulge in privately, but blasted online with zero shame. He wore them in public, talked about them endlessly, and made them central to his entire internet presence. By 2025, Pamperchu had already carved out his legacy as one of the internet's strangest, grossest, and most pathetic figures. Pamperchu was slipping through the cracks. Time and time again, he had been shunned and canceled by the internet folks. Yet somehow he remains active to this day.
Germ pit. There's no germs in here. Well, there better be. There better be germs in here. This is a COVID-25 pit. You don't know about COVID-19? Well, it came out in 2019.
For some, he's still fascinating. For others, he's repulsive. But no matter how you feel about him, you just can't look away. Childhood trauma and possible drug use pushed him to become this irritating lolcow. And it's not entirely funny, because Pamperchu didn't just embarrass himself online. He said and did things that raised serious concerns. Throughout his videos and posts, he often blurred the line between fantasy and reality when it came to minors and animals. And while he sometimes brushed it off as jokes or roleplay, the words came out of his mouth. The implications were there. At the end of the day, being an adult means knowing the difference between harmless fun in actual danger. And time again, Pamperchu showed he either didn't know or didn't care. Pamperchu might never grow up. He has come this far amidst so many life hurdles, yet he seems to be spiraling down an endless pit. Pamperchu is a sour topic, but he still gives us insights into the nature of the people we're doing life with. Nothing has changed over the years, but we can keep our fingers crossed that a miracle can happen. Or what do you think? Leave an answer in the comments below. I hope you are having a great day before finding out about this Hell's Reject, so now you can fully appreciate how terrible mine is. But either way, it's been a pleasure. Be sure to stick around for the next one.